Well, hello there. My name is not important. If y'all know what that's from, I want y'all to tweet us or DM us and be like, I know exactly what that's from. If you know what that's from, you're a real one. So let me know. Either way, my name is actually Ryan. Most people call me Ryan. You can call me either. But this is Tara Talks, Ryan Listens. At some point, Tara's going to talk.
Yeah, eventually.
And that's perfectly fine. Take your time, sweetheart. Anyway, welcome back to another episode. Live from not live, but recording from Versatile Optic Studios.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You're over there quiet. You never this quiet.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
All kind of stuff wrong with you.
I'm good though.
Better be. So, where do we start?
Well, I guess you can call it like a cold open.
Hey, real quick, y'all. She just woke up, so
I did. I had a random nap. I didn't even realize. You know those naps where you don't even realize you sleep until you wake up.
I legit was in the kitchen talking to her. She was in the living room. I'm in the kitchen, and I'm sitting there talking to her, and she hadn't responded. I go in there and I look. I'm like, babe,
knocked out.
Babe, she was gone.
I was. And the worst part about it is I fell asleep while I was watching Grey's. And even though I've seen every episode of Grey's multiple times, this is probably my, fourth time?
At least fourth time.
Rewatching it. I still don't like missing anything because it's any of Shonda Rhimes shows. It's one of those shows where you can't just fall asleep on it. Like, no shade, but I can fall asleep on Friends. I can fall asleep on Frasier. I can fall asleep on Golden Girls and be fine, but I can't fall asleep on Grey's. I gotta watch every moment.
Well, so, Grey's is a drama compared to three comedies you just
okay,
so.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's comedies versus drama. But yeah, so I feel even worse that I fell asleep on Grey's, and I'm gonna have to go back and rewind, which is so annoying. I saw something online the other day where somebody was saying, can Netflix get a feature to know when I fall asleep so I don't have to go back and rewind it and try to pick up where I left off? It's so true, because literally they do the whole still watching. Okay, first of all, of course I'm still watching. I'm binge watching. Stop judging me. But can you notice when my eyes close and then pause it? How do we get that? That would be so handy, because I really when I feel myself getting sleepy, I have to pause it and then switch out to a show that I don't mind falling asleep on. I literally do that.
Yeah, it's weird living with her.
Wait, what? It's weird living with me?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
You have some very quirky habits, and I've learned to love and accept them all.
You have, and it took some time.
It took some time, but yeah.
Love it. But anyway, let's go ahead and hop right into our topic for...
We ain't got no topic.
We got a topic for this week and next week. So, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
This is true.
And we haven't covered it up until now because it's been Mother's Day and your birthday and other stuff going on. But we're gonna talk about it today. I think, literally since the beginning of this podcast, we've been saying how much we are big proponents of self-care and counseling and therapy. And I just want to start with a disclaimer. We are not mental health professionals. We are not counselors.
By no means.
We're not therapists.
We are people who visit counselors and therapists.
Exactly. So we are Kev on Stage, he and his wife Melissa, they have that podcast, The Love Hour.
Right.
And they say they're not marriage counselors, they're marriage champions.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I feel like we are supporters of, or I guess proponents of counseling. And we really want to, I guess, dispel the myth and get rid of the stigma of going to counseling.
What's the stigma, you ask? Well, in the Black community, anytime. So first of all, Black men in general do not like visiting healthcare professionals for any reason.
Right. You ain't even going to the doctor.
No reason whatsoever. Let's say me and my uncle out in the backyard building a shed to keep stuff in. Right. He bangs his thumb with a hammer and can't move it. I'll be all right. Just wrap it up. I'm like, you need to go to the hospital, bro. You can't move your thumb. It's probably broken. Let's go to the hospital. Nah, I ain't going to the hospital. Come on. Really? Why? and it's not specifically my uncle, but you know, it's
example.
a lot of black men who will not, for whatever reason.
For valid reason, because you have the Tuskegee, you know, situation.
Tuskegee experiments. Or,
yes.
What was it? Yeah.
You got Henrietta Lacks.
We, as
There's
black people.
So many
along with
reasons,
systemic racism.
Valid reasons for black people
for why we
to not trust doctors.
And same thing with law enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, people say, oh, they're just blah, blah, blah. No, there's valid reasons as to why African-American communities do not trust law enforcement and medical professionals.
Not to mention, so on top of the you know, not trusting doctors, there's also the lack of access and not being able to afford to go to the doctor, or, you know, if you go, you're afraid, you know, a bill is going to bankrupt you, or you're not going to be able to take care of your essentials, or you don't have health insurance.
And that's what everybody at that point.
Yeah.
Because I mean, medical care is expensive. We're one of the few advanced nations in the world that has yet to adopt universal health care. If you get hurt in Canada, you go to the hospital. It's that simple. There's no debate, and it doesn't cost you anything.
And the thing is, like, I know we had healthcare growing up. So I guess I just didn't go because my mom was a nurse and just like figured out what was wrong and took care of it on her own with like over the counter stuff. But I didn't go to the doctor growing up. But then like in my early 20s, went to the doctor, and like all these medical bills, I was like, whoa, what is this? You know? And so then in my early 20s, I like actually hurt myself really bad and refused to go to the hospital, even though now I'm realizing, oh, I definitely should have, because I still have residual pain from that. Basically, I fell down a flight of stairs and didn't go to the hospital because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to afford it. And I had health insurance at the time, but I still was like afraid of like whatever the other costs would be. And so it's just like, yeah, that's a real thing. So I guess I want to start from why we go to counseling. So I'm going to start. Is that okay?
Yep.
So I have always felt like there's nothing wrong with going to counseling, but I just never went, if that makes any sense. And so I would always make jokes, like anything my mom would like say or do, I'd be like, see, that's why I'm going to counseling, or it's okay, I'm just going to tell my counselor about it. Like that was like our running joke in the family. Like, well, that's, you know, some family drama. That's another thing for me to tell my counselor, you know, just like joking, but never actually went. Had a lot of reasons to go, but just, I don't know why I didn't go. I guess I, again, thought it was going to be too expensive. A lot of times I don't do things because I assume it's going to be too expensive without actually looking into it to see how much it's going to cost. And, oh, that's pretty reasonable. So anyway, never went to therapy, never had a reason to, because grew up hearing like, oh, just pray about it. And so between prayer and journaling, I just kind of dealt with stuff, childhood trauma and all of that on my own. Then on October 5th of 2013, my whole world changed. I got the most devastating call of my life and found out that my dad had a heart attack and died. And that was very traumatic for me because I'm a daddy's girl, like literally grew up so close to my dad. And even after the divorce, you know, he fought to make sure we had a relationship. And, you know, I just was uber spoiled, even though, yeah, even after I was grown, and would literally talk to my dad like almost every day. Like if I didn't talk to my dad for like 2 or 3 days, he would call me and be like, hey, stranger. Like that's literally how often we talked. So it was pretty devastating for me. And so let's say 2013, I was, I think, 24. So, yeah, so it was right before I turned. No, that can't be right.
So in 2013, I was 23 going on 24.
No, that's not right.
What should be right?
Because if you take 2013 minus some years, oh, I guess you are right.
I know how to count sometimes, okay?
Okay, I don't know why I thought I had already moved by then. Anyway, the point is I was 24. The real point is I was young. And yeah, anyway, was it now I'm like questioning myself on like what year it was. No, it wasn't 2013 because I moved here in 2013.
It was 2012.
That's what I'm thinking. That's when
you and I started. Yeah.
Okay. October 5th of 2012. Anyway, so I was 23, about to turn 24. And yeah, it was rough to be that in my early 20s, just getting on my feet, just kind of getting started with my new job after college, and like still very much feeling like I needed that advice from my dad on like how to make it and what to do. And he was that person I called like on any, big decision or any frustration or any exciting thing that happened. So anyway, that was very devastating. I tried to turn to family members and friends, and quite frankly, turned to my ex, which we had just gotten back together. We were like off and on for several years. And we had just gotten back together, kind of, I think, not really sure about that still. And so I, was like turning to him for support, and he could not handle it and was really like, hey, maybe, you're a writer, maybe you should blog about it. So I started a blog. Still, I can't remember who told me to go to therapy though. I want to say it was like one of my coworkers or somebody, or maybe like my sister. Anyway, the point is, went to therapy, and it helped. And so but at that point I was going every week, because at that point I was literally just hanging on. What's that part in Grey's when Miranda, like after the shooting, she's like, I'm hanging together with tape and glue, and
oh yeah,
like
I remember her saying that to the guy.
That is how I felt. I was barely hanging on, like going to work in a haze and just barely getting through the days. So yeah, therapy really helped me with like some good methods for how to handle grief, and just also helped me work through like a lot of other issues and stressors, like with work and family stuff. And so it went really well. I can't remember how long I went. For so long I went every week, and then eventually switched to like every other week or once a month, something like that. Then when I moved here and was like, okay, I feel all this like anxiety in my body. I don't know if anyone else feels this, but like when I get really stressed out, I can feel it. It's almost like my heart gets really heavy, and I can tell like, okay, I need to go to counseling, or I need to do something, get a massage, something. So I felt that, and I was like, okay, I need to find a therapist here. Literally was just like Googling and trying to find out like somebody in my insurance that would be covered by my insurance. And so found somebody random, and I kind of just poking around on her website, liked a lot of the stuff she stood for. And I guess I will say my only two therapists that I've had have been white women. It hasn't been intentional. It's literally just like me trying to find somebody that is covered by my insurance. So the first white lady, absolutely loved her. She was older. She was really into Kundalini yoga, which is, I don't know the exact term, but it's kind of like in my mind, like a deeper form of yoga. I usually do vinyasa, which is breath, or hatha, which I can't remember all the types. Anyway, the point is, she was really big into like sand raking and just like a lot of different types of ways to work through your emotions. She was also very good at interpreting dreams. And I have a lot of dreams. I have like very vivid dreams. And then like after my dad died, of course, I had a lot of dreams about that. So she was really good at interpreting dreams, and she got me onto like writing down my dreams after they happen. And so that way I could remember them right away and kind of process, okay, what does this mean? What is it coming from? So anyway, really liked her, hated to leave her. And then came here. Now this white lady, she was different.
The lady we both went to?
Yeah.
Interesting. She
was different, but I like her. She's real. She's really more to be like, well, you're stressed out. Maybe you should go to the gym. Like, it gives you endorphins. Like, and she's just going to be like, make time for it. Yeah, you're busy. I know you are. Like, we all are. Like, she literally is just going to be pretty straightforward. She also is really good at giving me like practical things to do rather than just listening. And so I kind of feel like I walk out of there with a weight lifted off of me, and I walk out of there with, I don't know, motivation to like, to conquer my goals, to knock out some things, and to like things that I felt afraid to do, I feel empowered to do. And so she's very supportive. She was super pumped when I told her we were starting this podcast. Like, you know, it's just really, I think my biggest thing with therapy is sometimes you just get tired of venting to friends, right?
Very true.
And it's like, I have a lot of good friends that I can vent to. I really feel great about that I, you know, have a circle. Of course, I can always talk to you. I have, you know, family members that I can, you know, lean on, my mom, my sister, aunts. I have a lot of people I can go to. And, you know, we grew up hearing, just pray about it. Just pray about it. Just pray about it. Just pray about it. And absolutely, you got to go to the throne. You got to get down on bended knee, and you need to have a little talk, have a little walk with Jesus. I'm definitely not saying don't pray.
But what they say about faith without works.
Exactly. Faith without works is dead. And, you know, I just felt so, what's the word? Like, I felt so inspired, motivated. I don't know what the word is. I felt so good. I feel like Selena right now. Like, me siento muy
I see what you did there.
excited. So anyway, I felt so good about when our pastor stood up and said, I felt rejuvenated. I felt validated, I guess, when our pastor stood up and said, go to counseling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For a pastor to say that, because usually pastors are the ones saying pray about it. But our pastor is a very strong proponent or a strong supporter of mental health counseling. And I love that. Actually, our church just started offering free counseling a few years ago. And so that was, you know, a big thing. And what we forget about is when I grew up, a lot of people would go to the pastor with all of their problems and issues.
Or the barbershop.
I don't know anything about that, but
okay,
I believe
I'll talk about that another time.
And so they would go to the pastor with their issues, not realizing the pastor is human, and pastors have their own issues, and they don't need to be carrying all your burdens. And, you know, the thing is, like, I can't remember the exact statistic, but the suicide rate for pastors is ridiculous. And so we need to be praying for our pastors, but also, like, I don't know, like, I'm just glad that I have someone that I can go to and talk to them, and they're not a part of my life at all. They're not in it. They're not judging it. Like, my therapist popped up on like LinkedIn or something, like one of the social media sites. I was like, no, like, why are you telling me I might know her? Yeah, I know her, but no. Like, I love the anonymity of, like, I see her when I see her. Oh, that's another thing. So like I said, at first I was going every week, then because it was just really rough with the grief right away. And then it was like every other week, and then eventually once a month. Now my therapist here is kind of like, you come see me when you feel like you need to see me. And I love that, because it's not like, I don't know how to put it, but I guess the lack of obligation to like a weekly thing or a monthly thing. I know there are times when that is necessary, but I kind of feel like I'm at a point where I enjoy being able to just hit her up and be like, hey, you free Friday at 10? So, but I will say, I wish that, like, can you imagine if a company was just like, everyone needs to go to therapy once a week for an hour, like, in addition to your lunch break, and you're not scrambling trying to fit it in to your schedule. Like, if there was a little bit less stigma and more support at every, you know, workplace, that would be pretty dope. And then I probably would go more often. But again, it's you know, with my insurance, it's not expensive, but it is another thing to pay for. But it's definitely worth it. So I don't know. I feel like I've been talking too much, so I'll let you go ahead and tell your story.
Name of the show? That's perfectly fine. So anyway, I was trying to find that the suicide rate for pastors, because I read about that or heard about that at one point, and it was very alarming.
It is.
So, what's the question again? Where did you start?
Why do you go to therapy?
Why do I go to therapy? Okay, so I've been through some things. Nothing too traumatic, nothing too major. Not gonna go into detail though. It was basically something that you generally wouldn't expect. And quite frankly, I didn't really know how to deal with it, you know? I was graduating college, getting ready to graduate from college. My final semester. Had a bad car accident, which ultimately led to, I was fine, nothing, I walked away from it and everything was fine. Lost the car and had a really big fight with a family member about that car. The car led to several other fights with this same family member, and ultimately this family member and I not speaking for what ended up being like 8 years, And in that time, I was struggling. My apartment was in Houston. I was in school at Prairie View. So without a car, you got to get from Houston to Prairie View. That's not a simple thing to do. It's not a very simple task. There was no public transit that went from Houston to Prairie View at the time. I still don't think there is. But I had to figure it out one way or another. So on top of that, and having to write 2 30-page papers in order to graduate, on top of everything else I had to do, I was involved in a lot of stuff, had a whole bunch of organizations and stuff. So I really felt like my world was crashing around me. And I didn't really know how to handle it. Didn't know what to do. I drank a lot. That was probably a very bad thing, as much as I was drinking. So at that point, I was just like, okay, this can't continue. I need to do something else here. Still didn't do anything else about it right then. Didn't know what to do. I don't think I had insurance. I don't really know how any of that. Still don't really know how any of that works. But I know for sure at the time I was not unemployed. I was working on campus, and I knew I didn't have health insurance. Wasn't sure if my parents had it for me. Didn't really know. Also didn't really want to talk about it. I was kind of ashamed that I was, struggling so much after doing fine for a whole 4 years. And then my last semester, I'm sitting here falling apart. It was quite embarrassing. So luckily one of my best friends basically was willing to come and get me from Houston, drive me back to Prairie View just so I could be in class. Ended up sleeping on my best friend's couch for days at a time, because I didn't want to have her driving back and forth to come get me. That was, completely selfless of her, and I love her to death for it still to this day. When I get wealthy, her grandkids got it. You know what I'm saying? It's that big of a deal to me. But, I put a lot of that stress onto her. Like every day I'm sitting there talking about my problems, and I could tell, I didn't really want to just, put all of that on her as well, trying to have her listen to all of that and deal with her, because she had her own issues. Like everybody has their own issues, and mine were extremely heavy. I didn't want her trying to carry mine either. Still didn't really know what to do about it though. So I was drinking a lot. Now I keep saying drinking a lot because, while I'm drinking, sure, everything feels great, having a good time. But when I wake up the next morning, it's back to reality. So drinking was not the answer. Still didn't know what else to do about it. And after a while, it just kind of festered. I did eventually graduate that semester. Ended up having to save a whole bunch of money and buy my own replacement car with the money that I had saved up, because I was trying to, do some things with that money, pay for an apartment in case I didn't have a job lined up right away, which ultimately all of this whole situation affected my employment outcome after graduation. I had a couple jobs lined up and had no way to get to, well, interviews at least lined up. Missed one of the interviews because I could not find a ride to save my life. Another one, I was not able to reschedule it. They were like, yeah, we can only do it today. So if you can't make it, then we'll have to move forward. I'm like, okay, well, there goes that. So I missed out on 2 opportunities there. At that point, I'm like, I was basically depressed and didn't realize it, So I moved back home afterwards. I was like, at this point, after buying this car and all the money I spent, I'm giving people gas money, trying to get back and forth places, and, still trying to handle everything. I legit did not buy a cap and gown. I borrowed it the night before, borrowed it from one of my frat brothers the night before graduation. I was like, oh crap, I don't have a cap and gown. I need to find one now. So it was rough. Graduated, walked across the stage, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move home for a little while. Need to save up some money, need to go find a job, need to do X, Y, and Z, because Houston is a very expensive city to live in. So I was just like, let me just go chill for a little bit. Go home, stay with mom for a little bit, work, save up some money, and just, you know, kind of start putting my life back together. Went home, stayed with mom for a little while. Everything was cool, but I got bored, you know. My mom lives in Louisiana, in northern Louisiana, not New Orleans or Baton Rouge, in northern Louisiana. So it was extremely boring. Wanted to go back to Houston, wanted to go back to Dallas. Had to save up a whole bunch of money. And after a while, I was noticing that I started having anger issues that were triggered by the smallest things. Let's say, for example, you know how when you open a door and you like misgrip the handle and the door kind of hits you? I would turn around and just punch the door like it was a person who punched me first. Like, I'm sitting here punching doors because the door hit me a little bit. Like, stuff like that was triggering me to the point where I'm sitting there freaking out. Luckily, nobody saw it. Nothing like that happened in public. Nobody, you know, thought I was crazy. But after a while, I started realizing, like, okay, I got some serious issues here. Mind you, a big chunk of that is a result from the fallout with the aforementioned family member. So I'll kind of get to the point where I'm just like, need to figure something out here, because I can't just keep walking around punching everything that pisses me off. At some point, that's going to get me in trouble. So after a while, I was just like, let me just, you know, lay low for a while. Let me just try to figure out what to do. That whole time, never even thought to like go to a counselor, go to a therapist. I never thought about any of that. So I'm like dramatically underemployed, trying to work and save up money, living in my parents' house at 22. Nobody wants to live in their parents' house at 22. I definitely did not, especially not in the city where she was living at the time. So I was just like, let me figure something. I got to get out of here one way or another. It took me years to like realize, oh, I should probably go talk to a professional about this kind of stuff. You know, fortunately, I never had like any violence issues with other people, but there was times where I'm, you know, screaming and punching walls because I was just mad. I was angry, and usually over small stuff, and I couldn't control it. And I used to be like just the type of person that was happy-go-lucky all the time, was laughing at everything. Everything was funny, but I was a completely different person. And I was starting to scare myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. Long story short, fast forward actually, because when me and Tara started talking again, this was like 2012, November-ish. We hit it off very well. And to be completely honest, I really haven't told very many people this, so consider yourselves fortunate to know this part of the story. Me reconnecting with Tara was like a light at the end of the tunnel for me, because that tunnel was very dark, and like she was just the brightest light. And I'm just like, I would have never thought that this reconnection would, you know, turn into what it is now. But at the same time, she kind of like she doesn't, I don't think she realizes it, but she kind of turned me back into the person who I initially was, turning me back into my old self, just because, you know, she didn't really know the whole story about what was happening. She knew the gist of it, but, you know, we eventually got to the point where I was able to talk to her about it, because I really could not talk to anybody else about it. Because one, I don't want to, you know, weigh anybody else down with my problems, and people don't care about your problems in most cases. That's the thing. A lot of people don't care what you're going through. They'll listen and they'll sympathize sometimes, but ultimately they got their own problems, or they just simply don't want to hear it.
Can I just say, I think it's very interesting, and I don't think I ever really noticed the symmetry of you're saying I was the light at the end of your tunnel, and I feel like you were that for me, because how ironic is it that I was pulling you out of a dark place while I was in a dark place, because I was still grieving the loss of my father, and I wasn't talking to you about it at first because I realized like this is kind of heavy. This is this guy that I just started, you know, talking to. I don't want to bring up something super heavy. So, you know, when I was on the phone with you, like I was good, but then, you know, afterwards I was still grieving. And, you know, I just think it's so interesting that we were able to do that for each other and not even realize it in the moment.
That's pretty. I didn't even think about that either. Like, you know, the fallout with the family member, it was almost me grieving as well, because when somebody says delete my number, don't ever call me again, you know, I was never a disobedient child. I figured, why start now? Never called him again, you know. So at that point, I'm basically in the same boat. You know, there's hope for redemption in my situation, but there was no desire for it. You know, there was a lot of resentment, and I wasn't in my mind. I prayed about it and I let it go. Forgave that person in my heart, because I didn't want to carry that around with me. So I was like, I have to let this go. And that was like really all I could come up with. So I did that to the best of my ability, and, you know, try to move on, try to pick myself up and move on. But it, you know, was a lot easier said than done.
Always.
So yeah, I do find that interesting that, you know, that was kind of a parallel. But
I also want to talk about you saying like our friends have stuff going on too. Like, that's so real. There's an episode of Sex and the City where Carrie is like having a hard time dealing with the breakup with Big, and she just keeps venting to her friends like over and over again. Like, it shows them like everywhere they are, like brunch, happy hour, shopping, the gym, walking, like everywhere they go, she's just venting about this guy. And finally they sit her down and they're like, you need to go seek professional help. We're done. Like, we can't do it anymore. And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like, you know, there gets to a point where you can't just vent to people over and over again.
Right.
It gets to a point where you need to seek professional help.
Yeah. So, and then years later, honestly, was when I, you know, found my way out of it, basically with Tara's help, you know, with her inadvertently helping me out of it. There was that. And I remember one day when Fall Out Boy released their first song in like a whole bunch of years after their hiatus. It was like 2013 when my songs Know What You Did in the Dark came out. I don't know what it was about that song, but I had been real lazy, lethargic, sleeping a lot, not really eating well, at least, you know, staying up super late, sleeping in late, and just doing the absolute minimum, you know, not working out, not doing anything. That song came out. I was like, okay. I plugged it up to my big speakers and just blasted it for like 3 hours straight. I put on some headphones and some running shoes. I ran around the block to that song like 6 times. I was like, okay, that song, like, I don't know what it was about that song, but that song like literally sparked something in me. And I was just like, I feel better.
Yeah.
Somewhere between Tara and Fall Out Boy, it, you know, kind of pushed me back in the right direction. So, and if you know anything about Fall Out Boy, a lot of their music is the complete opposite of, you know, it's the complete opposite of uplifting in most cases. For a lot of people, it'll confuse you, but if you kind of know what's going on, it's the complete opposite. So I was happy about that, first of all, because they had gotten back together and started making music again. That was great. And then just something about that song, I was like, man. So I got on the phone with Tara. I was like, you have to hear this song. I know you're probably not a big Fall Out Boy fan like I am, but this is like one of my all-time favorite songs ever. But, you know, talking to her every day, I think it was way later, that I realized I was probably clinically depressed and had no idea. I thought I was just mad, you know? And it's a lot of people just assume it's the same thing, and it's really not the case. You know, there's a chemical reaction in your brain that occurs. And I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I have no medical credentials whatsoever, but there are things that occur that we can't see, that we're unaware of. And if we don't stay on top of it, you know, if we don't get ourselves checked regularly, if we don't visit medical professionals, these things can go undetected, and undetected can cause huge problems. So let's go back to that stigma we were talking about. Again, especially in the Black community, we don't want nobody thinking, you know, especially, you know, you try to keep your family business private.
Yes, that is so true. We are raised, keep house business.
Right.
House business.
Do not air my dirty laundry.
Yes.
You know, stuff like that. So let's say that my parents or somebody knew that I needed to go see a mental health care professional, you know, of course, they're not going to talk to nobody about it. They're not going to ask around and be like, hey, I know a therapist, blah, blah, such and such. It's not something that you talk about publicly, which is problematic because I look at it this way. And this is how I talk to anybody who, sometimes people come to me. I work at a university. Sometimes students will come to me and be like, hey, look, I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, such and such. Anybody who comes to me with any type of issue like this, I straight up tell them, go see a therapist, go see a counselor, talk to somebody. And, a lot of them are like, I'm not crazy. I'm like, it's not what it's about, first of all. And second of all, would you rather somebody think you're crazy, or would you rather let these problems develop into the point where you can't control them and you have no control over how you're feeling and your emotions, and then you go and do something that leads people to think you're crazy? Would you rather get help about it and prevent it? Would you rather pay for a therapist to kind of work these issues out? Or would you rather get yourself in trouble behind it and have to pay for lawyers and court costs and possibly go to jail behind something? Take your pick. Because either, like, if somebody finds out that you're visiting a therapist, like, oh, he crazy, that dude crazy, blah, blah, blah. But you worked it out with your therapist. You were seeing a therapist regularly, and you've taken steps to prevent, certain types of actions. Or would you rather just
snap one day?
Would you rather just snap and people see what you're trying to prevent, what you're trying to hide from them, but in an uncontrolled form? Take your pick,
Yeah, I'll just say it's important to go to counseling. And one thing that I'm trying to work on is talking about me going to counseling openly, so that it reduces the stigma. Like just in general conversation, be like, oh yeah, my therapist said da-da-da. Like,
yeah, I slip it in casual conversations like it's nothing. Like I went to the barbershop. And
that's what I want it to become. I want it to be that thing. Because a lot of the people who you think might be judging you, they need therapy just as bad.
They need to hear that they're not alone.
Exactly. Right. And they need someone to say, it's okay.
Right. I've got really good friends who I was, just kicking it with casually. And something came up, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah. I was like, you know what, bro? Let me tell you something. You were absolutely not alone. Like, I visited my therapist at least once a week, Well, pretty much once, like weekly. I pretty much go every week unless something comes up where I'm, can't make it. But, my therapist, luckily I have a black woman. I got somebody auntie, so it's nice. She literally reminds me of like my great aunts. It's awesome. But I feel like, once I kind of got used to going, I was not like, for me, I didn't care about the stigma. Didn't care whatsoever. I felt like I needed to be there. I felt like I was going to benefit from it because I have a lot of dreams and goals and things that I want to accomplish and things that I want to change in my family for the next generations. And if I'm dealing with these types of issues, I'm not going to be able to do that as effectively as I need to. Maybe not at all. So I would much rather, work on these things, get the problems out of the way so that when it's time for me to have kids and when my kids need me, I can be there for them. I can do things for them because I'm not trying to just be stuck to a chair because I'm depressed and my kids want to go outside and play.
That's real.
I'm not trying to, have my kid late back to college after the semester break because I'm just like too tired to drive because I can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I'm finna deal with these things. I'm not finna have Tara out here looking crazy because I can't spend time with her because I'm depressed. I'm going to deal with it. And I give so very few damns about anybody's opinion, quite frankly.
That's another reason why I wanted to go to counseling too, is because like I want to be a healed and whole self, to be a better wife and mother, because that is very important to me. Like I want to be able to work through my issues and not pass down generational curses and, all this stuff that so much like history and issues that because people didn't work through it, their own childhood traumas, then they pass stuff down. Like I want to be able to, I guess, just work on myself and be my best self. So we're going to talk more about mental health throughout the show, but I just wanted to kind of open up with why we go to counseling. Next week we will dive into self-care. our like what we do for self-care. But this week we just wanted to talk kind of in general about counseling and therapy. I do want to give a shout out to our friend who has a Facebook page. It's called Kendra's Mental Health Moment, a safe place. And she is a full-time mental health clinician and licensed clinical social worker, and just has a passion for mental health in general. And so like usually like every day she posts on her page, you know, just kind of some tips or suggestions or facts, tidbits. So check it out if you get a chance. Again, it's Kendra's Mental Health Moment, a safe place. And that'll be, you know, kind of a good place that you can go to get some tips on how to deal with mental health and therapy and things of that nature.
So I got one more thing I want to say before we wrap up this part of the show. Like I was mentioning, there's things that if I know I need to take care of something, I'm going to take care of it. And I'm going to tell you my biggest thing. First of all, you have to understand your why. Like we both mentioned, we want generational changes. We don't want to pass down generational curses. We want to just get these things out of the way. We want to create a better situation than the situations we had, which was our parents' goal, was to create better situations than the one they had. So we got to start new traditions.
Absolutely.
The main reason why I felt like I needed to do this is because I'm my mom's only child. I'm both my parents' only child. I got foster siblings and I love them to death, but I'm the only one that my mom made. So there was absolutely no way I'm going to let my mama down. You know? No way whatsoever. Like, I may not reach every single goal that I had for myself, but my mom is already extremely proud of me. And I feel like I got to keep that going. So I'm not going to do anything that's going to cause my mom to lose her child before it's time for me to go. And I'm not going to, you know, allow these things to take away from my own life or take away my life. You know, if absolutely nothing else, my mom wants to see me be successful and be great, you know, to whatever that level of success means for her. In my mind, I got to exceed that. And I'm just a black man who loves his mama. And I know it's a lot of black men out there that can relate to me. Probably everybody specifically, but specifically black men. You can't tell us nothing about our mamas. So if absolutely nothing else, do it for your mama, bro. Seriously. And again, that's going to wrap up this part of the show. We're going to move on to a little bit of a lighter note. But, you know, again, we have to make sure that the stigma is erased.
I love it.
So
let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So moving on to our next segment, which is just kind of like things that were popping up in my timeline, of course, over the last week. And so the biggest headline was...
Oh, wow. We just now getting to the headlines.
The biggest one was Robert Smith. That's why I say we starting out with a cold open.
Yeah.
But the biggest one was Robert Smith promised to pay off all of the graduate student loans during his commencement speech at Morehouse. So I'm sure everyone's heard about this. If you haven't, I don't know where you've been. But this is one of those stories where I wish I was still in school. Of course, it came out a few weeks after my classes ended, but this will be a great thing to discuss with my professors, because we always discuss stuff like this. And it blows my mind, because we're at a point where politicians are talking about forgiving student loans or free college or free community college. And right now, education is becoming really politicized, and it's more of a bargaining tool. And I mean, you know, it makes my ears perk up, but I can't necessarily say I'm voting for the person who promises these things, because political promises aren't always fulfilled. What I love is that this billionaire, I think I heard that he's the richest black man in America. He's
up there if he's not.
He just said, I'm going to do my part. And so that is absolutely goals. Mm-hmm. Where I can, if I could give a commencement speech and say, you know what, I'm so proud of y'all. You should be proud of yourselves. But also, I'm about to make you debt free.
Right.
That's so dope. So it was what, 40 million for 400 students, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
And man, I just think that's awesome. To just, I mean, imagine sitting in their shoes where you're about to embark on, you know, your first big job, life after college, and all this, and to know that the stress and the weight of that student loan debt, the shackles are released.
Yeah, man. If I can only imagine what I would do if I didn't have to pay back my student loan. If
right.
I would legit. The goal was for them to pay it forward.
Yeah.
So that's the deal. Everybody has to pay it forward. I'm doing my part. He said. I'm sure everybody else is going to start doing their part, and we're all going to pay it forward. And I love that.
Yeah, because you are in such a better place economically when you can start out at a different, I guess, your starting line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's people whose parents pay for their college, like that's such a blessing. And I mean, I hope you don't take it for granted if you don't have any student loans, if it's, based off of scholarships or grants, or if your parents had it to pay for it. That's such a blessing, because those of us who are sitting here with student loans, it's tough. It really is. And so that's like my whole big goal for being able to be debt free is to pay it forward and to do something like that for somebody else, to just be like, hey, actually don't worry about it. I got it. Right.
Like, would you say it was 40 million or something like that?
I think that's what it was. 40 million.
40 million to a billionaire
is nothing.
Is nothing. That's like $400 for a regular person.
Yeah, it was nothing.
But
that was still a beautiful contribution that he didn't have to do now. And I think I saw him challenging.
Right. There was definitely a challenge.
Challenging future, the rest of the alumni and future commencement speakers. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Like next semester's commencement speaker got big shoes to fill. But yeah, like, and one thing I definitely want to say is that you do not have to be a billionaire. You don't have to be any of the world's richest people to pay something forward.
That's so true.
Like, I'm sure that all of us can say that somebody's done something for us in our lives that we appreciate. Somebody's been there for you when you least expected it. You've had an angel watching over you for whatever the case is. And you don't have to like pay off a whole entire class of graduation classes, student loans. You can start with what you have.
True.
Like whether it's, buying food for somebody on the corner that needs food. You could go volunteer your time at a shelter, participate in, community service, but a lot of it's free. You don't have to give a whole lot of money to do these things. And it doesn't require you to be a multimillionaire or a billionaire or even 100,000 there, if that's a thing. But sometimes like sharing what you have, whether it's, giving a student, like if you graduated already and you got an extra suit in your closet and a student that needs a suit, take that student, go get that suit tailored and be like, here you go, little bro. Go get this job interview. Go be great. You know what I'm saying? It's small things like that
you can do to make a difference. Things, yeah, that's so true.
Even if you just go to JCPenney and pay like $250 for a suit for a student who needs a suit, that's
everything. That's the world.
That you just saved a student $250.
Yeah.
Like you saved that student's parents $250. They're probably paying for it out of their pocket. They're paying for it with loans. Like $250 is a big deal to a college student.
Absolutely.
So if you got that, something, even if it's a tie, like now he going to his job fair and he's suited, completely suited, probably turning heads too. At that point, that's the last thing he's got to worry about. He making sure his resume is on point at this point. So that could make the biggest difference in the world, whether you realize it or not. That could lead him to an internship, that leads him to an early job offer, that leads him to a successful career. And next thing you know, we got another Robert F. Smith. So these contributions, whether they seem small or not, they're a big deal to somebody.
That's real. Moving on to not so, I don't know. This is so random, but this just struck me. It struck a chord with me. So I guess it was Baby Future's birthday recently.
Oh God.
And Russell Wilson's birthday tweet versus Future's birthday tweet is like, let me just read it. All right. Ahead, so this is Russell. All right. Papa Russ, if you will. He says, from the moment we came into each other's worlds to 5 years later, you changed my life and my heart for the better. You are the greatest gift I could have ever asked God for. I will always love you, guide you, teach you, and care for you. Happy 5th birthday, future. Papa Russ loves you. And he added Sierra, of course.
Of course.
I mean, it's just beautiful. Then you swipe on to the child's biological father. And okay, so just for some context, Russ, his caption was with a super cute picture of them, like at bumper cars or something, super cute, smiling, like adorbs. Mm-hmm. Then you swipe over to Papa Future. I don't know what to call him. Papa Future. Russ sounds like adorable, like Future. I don't know. Anyway, so Big Future, it's a picture of little Future with a Rolex that I guess Big Future got him. And the caption is a quote. It's
a Meek Mill quote.
It was something about that Rolly when it first touched my wrist. Meek. Like, what?
What? So
I just cannot. Like, honestly, I'm so happy for Sierra that she got out and got, she leveled up. But I just cannot handle how lackluster Future is for his own son compared to Russell, who just taking him in like a son, loves him, and treats him so good. Like, I just don't get it.
So many people had issues with Future buying his child a Rolex.
I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the caption.
A lot of people are like, how you gonna give a 5-year-old a Rolex? How you gonna hold on, let me do this. So I'm listening to Sway in the morning, right? It's one of my favorite radio shows ever.
Yeah.
If I don't start my day with Sway in the morning, it's like coffee to me. I need Sway in the morning before I go to work. I need it while I'm at work in the morning too. But anyway, so they people calling in to Sway in the morning, going in on Future. Like, man, why you give a 5-year-old a Rolex? He ain't even do nothing but break it. He ain't even do nothing but fall in the pool. He ain't gonna do nothing but driving the toy. So here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that at least Sierra is smart enough to, keep it somewhere safe. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that a Rolex is an investment. You can buy a Rolex now, and 20 years from now, it will appreciate in value rather than depreciate in value. Because it's, Rolexes, I believe, are handcrafted with the world's finest materials. And they become collector's pieces over time. So you got to realize that a Rolex is indeed a solid investment. So when Baby Future's like 25 years old, he's got a Rolex that Future probably paid, let's say, I don't know, $80,000 for. Let's say he costed $80,000. By the time Baby Future's 25, that Rolex would probably be worth a couple $100,000, if not more, So worst case scenario, God forbid, Baby Future needs money, which I highly doubt that'll ever be an issue. He's got that Rolex that's worth probably $250,000, if not more. So it's a contingency plan. But at the same time, I agree with Tara. That caption is like you could have, put something heartfelt at the top
and then the
finish the caption with something about the way.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, your dad's a rapper. Okay, I don't have a problem with quoting.
That's an art form. That has made him a wealthy man. So yes, appreciate the art form.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. But you couldn't say, "Happy 5th birthday, kid. Love you." Then put the
so happy to have you in my life. Anything like, I mean, no, I definitely don't have a problem with buying kids expensive things. I think it's up to the parents to teach them how to treat expensive things.
Right.
Kids aren't gonna get it. They're not gonna get it. No. They're just not. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that a lot of celebrities' kids have expensive things that we wouldn't even think to purchase. Like, I mean, that just is what it is. I don't even want Blue Ivy out here buying art, like bidding against Tyler Perry. Like, are you kidding me? These kids are not on our level. But I just had a problem with the caption in comparison.
And at this point, does anybody really expect anything different from Future?
Not at all.
Like, does this really shock anybody?
Nope. I just thought it was hilarious to see the side by side.
It's quite hilarious. And it's, I'm done. That's with that.
So last
That
but
was
not
fun.
least, I'm try to keep it short because everything else will be.
You got hiccups
I
again.
do. I'm going to try to keep this segment short because everything else will be long because of the mental health stuff, which I
Man,
don't
we
have a
still ain't
problem
got
with.
the weird news yet.
Yeah.
I'm only do one this week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good, because we got some questions. So DJ Khaled's new video,
Bruh.
Tearjerker, tribute to Nipsey. That's pretty dope.
Can I just say, one, that song Go Hard is
Yeah.
fire. I love that he opened up and like put his story in the music.
Yeah.
I love when people do that. I love when people keep it authentic, 100% real. And you have an opportunity to relate to these people, you know, because you forget entertainers are people too. You know, they probably grew up very similarly, if not worse sometimes than you did. And they talk about the things that they go through before they got to where you see them. Because not everybody started where you see them. A lot of people don't realize how much hard work and dedication and all types of other things that people had to go through before they get to where they are. And I love that he opened that first verse talking about his family and how his dad came from Africa. And one generation later, look where Nipsey Hussle is. So I love that he talked about that. Like that California love, like Hustle and Boog thing. That was kind of dope. Boog is Lauren London, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. But yeah, it was a beautiful cinematic work of art. And it was very well, very well edited and very well done to look like, a nice memorial for Nipsey Hussle. But at the same time, am I the only one who feels a bit creeped out by it? Because it seems like
he's still there.
It seems like they did that knowing that it was his last music video.
You know what? That's how it always is.
But maybe that's how they edited it.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like the Aaliyah one was the same way. The I Miss You video.
The Rock the Boat video.
No.
That was the last one she shot.
Yeah, but I Miss You came out after. That was the tribute one.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the last one that she was in, that she shot footage for, Rock the Boat looked creepy to me.
You think so? I didn't think that
Yes.
was creepy. I mean, I get how it could be weird because it was that, we saw it after she died. But
and maybe that's all it is. But they definitely, slowed it down a little bit in certain places
so you could
kind of get the
feeling. But that's just
know?
like, didn't Coachella have Tupac headline a couple years ago? Like,
yeah,
that was weird. That was the hologram, though.
Speaking of which, I heard somebody's trying to do a hologram tour with Whitney Houston's hologram.
No, I don't want it. I didn't ask for that. Stop it.
Just don't.
No.
Unless you're going to have her and Bobby perform next to each other.
I
That's it.
don't
And I don't even want to see
want
that.
that.
I don't even want to see that. Because Michael and Janet, that was one thing. That was great. That was adorable. That needed to happen. Nothing else. That was it.
Holograms creep me out regardless. Okay, weird news.
Weird news.
Obscure.
But yeah, of course, shout out to Nipsey Hussle.
Always.
R.I.P.
Indeed.
DJ Khaled, John Legend did his thing as usual. If you have not heard the song, get on Tidal. Go listen to it.
So the one thing I couldn't get over, I'm sorry. One thing I couldn't get over was John Legend. Every time I hear John Legend sing, I think of that guy that did the video.
The
guy you went to school with that did the video mocking John Legend.
Oh, you talking about...
I cannot get over that.
Man.
And then the DJ Khaled, like pretending to play the piano, just looked weird.
That was funny. Okay.
I just couldn't get over it.
So I need y'all all right now to go look up Phil Wade.
Yes, Phil Wade. Thank you. That's his name.
Phil with two L's.
Oh my gosh.
Go on YouTube. He's most notably known for his Trey Songz imitation.
Yes.
Like he kind of blew up off of that.
Yeah, the Trey Songz one is epic, but
he got a really good
John Legend one too.
Because here's the thing: that a lot of people don't realize that Phil Wade is like a legit R&B singer. Like when we worked at the radio station, I had like 2 of his songs in rotation.
The funny thing
I was hoping
is,
not to get sued.
I
did not have permission to do it.
I found him before I reconnected with you, and then found out later that he went to PV.
Like he graduated I think a couple years before I did, but I knew him, and so I like you see him around campus at like homecoming events and football games and stuff like that, and he was real cool, one of my big bros. So that cracks me up when you said that.
I can't get
That's
over
hilarious.
it. Anyway,
Yeah.
obscure news.
Obscure news. Which one do I want? Since we're talking about Morehouse and how they just graduated,
Do it.
I'm gonna keep this one real short. On Instagram/Twitter, probably all over the place by now, and I'm sure you've seen it. I'm just gonna read this headline, and you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you've been on social media, I guarantee you've seen it.
Okay.
Before I read the headline, some people, when they walk across the stage, they have to do a very noticeable visual, physical celebration. You know, people in fraternities might do whatever kind of stroll or hop or whatever they do, and that's cool. Some people who may be a little bit more religious might get to step, get to shouting up there and stomping like the Holy Ghost music in the background. And some people might dance, some people might pose for the picture, some people might do all kinds of cool stuff, right? And we've seen it.
Okay.
But college graduates' backflip attempt goes hilariously, painfully, and awkwardly wrong.
No.
So is one person, as they were crossing the stage, decided they just wanted to do a tuck, not a whole backflip, a hands-free backflip. And landed on his neck.
No.
Yeah.
So you trying to paralyze yourself.
I'm gonna play this clip.
You just got the degree.
see it.
Oh my goodness.
Just watch right here. It's coming. It's this guy. We'll probably post it on our IG so you can see it if you haven't. 3, 2.
Oh, got to be more careful. I felt that in my neck, soul, back, spirit.
Yeah.
That even made my ankle hurt. I can't.
I really hope somebody else got another angle or one where they didn't turn the camera away. I want to see.
Whatever happened to just a good little nod and shake? Nod and shake.
You know, sometimes less is more. Sometimes.
Peace sign.
Yeah. A jailhouse pose at the front of the stage, whatever. Something nice and simple. But yeah, it's not I feel like clear when I graduated, whether the guy got hurt or not.
They told us if you did anything extra like that, like you would
they will retain your degree. Yeah, you pay a fine for disrupting the ceremony. Like yeah,
it's probably not true. It's probably just something they said. But I believe stuff like that. So I just nice little smiling nod.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up for awkward news today. It's not really awkward, but
that is awkward funny. If you watch it.
If you watch it, it's awkward, especially if you were there and if you were the next person in line to shake his hand after he did the back, because he hadn't made it all the way across the stage yet. He still had like 3 more hands to shake.
Oh my gosh!
And there was like 4 or 5 people behind him on the stage already, and I couldn't really see what happened next.
I would have packed it up, walk home. Like I said,
I'd be like, you know what? Let me stick around another semester to master the backflip.
Terrible.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on to our listener letters. Like we say every week, we want to hear from you. We want this to be a 2-way street. So send us whatever you got going on. If it's, again, like something going on in your life, work drama, relationship drama, or family drama, we want to hear about it. Or if it's just a random question for us, about us, that's fine too. If you have anything regarding mental health awareness or self-care or therapy or anything along those lines, send it to us for next week's show so we can try to include it for that as well. So you can send those to askttrl@gmail.com, askttrl@gmail.com. And our first question comes from Genevieve. And Genevieve is saying,
a spot of tea.
Wow. I have some big changes coming up in my life and I'm feeling increasingly stressed about the unknown. How do you suggest I handle this?
Man, you know what? Change is an inevitable part of life. If you're not changing, it's because you're dead. Change is usually good. Even bad change can be used for good. So here's how I look at most things. Get it. Just go get it. Do it. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you need to do, whatever this change is, embrace it and go headstrong into it. You know, don't let anything stop you. Stay motivated. And that can be a challenge, especially during, you know, if you have mental health issues that you're dealing with. But, you know, change is a reason to stay motivated, you know. If you generally don't want things to stay the same too much, and I don't think there's any details about what the changes are there?
No.
So yeah, You have to find ways to stay positive. I know that's easier said than done. You have to not let it stress you out, especially when you're dealing with the unknown. You have to try to remain optimistic and just know that even in life, when you do fail at something, if you're still alive, that means try again. If you died, it's, that's one thing, but you didn't lose a battle. You learned something and your purpose has been served. That's what that means if you died. But if you're still alive, keep going. Try again. Do the same thing over again, but learn from what you did wrong the first time. And then on top of that, it's always good to pay it forward. Tell somebody else what you did wrong to prevent them from making that same mistake. So again, like when you're dealing with change, it's all about maintaining a positive outlook, knowing yourself, knowing your capabilities, and embracing the fact that you are capable of handling change. And just go out and just go try to be great. Like if you aim to be great and you're only good, you're not bad.
That's cute. So I will say, with any change, you have to look at it as an adventure.
I like that.
And so I will say I can definitely relate to this question because I am one of those. So we always grow up thinking about fight or flight, but it's actually, which my therapist told me, it's actually fight, flight, or freeze. And so I'm actually in the freeze category where when scary change, bad things, stressful situations come up, I just freeze up. And so the fight or flight, you fight through it, or the battle, kind of like from, ancient days, or flight, you flee, you run away. And so the freeze kind of comes up with the stress of the unknown, but you have to release that from your mind. And instead of just kind of panicking in that moment of how am I going to handle this change, whatever that big change is, you have to look at it as an adventure. So instead of I have to do this, I get to do this.
Nice.
And
that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. So, anytime you're going through any big change, moving is stressful. It could be
stressful and expensive.
It could be like, oh, I'm so excited. I got this great, amazing new job. That is still stressful.
Yeah.
Any big change. I'm going to tell you right now, getting engaged has been stressful. And I'm so excited. Love the ring. Love the man that I'm going to marry. Excited to be married and spend my life with him. Hey. But the planning of the wedding is stressful.
Planning your proposal was stressful.
I bet it was. Everything is stressful. One day we're going to have a kid and that's exciting. But I bet it might be stressful too.
It's gonna be
stressful. The anxiety of thinking about how am I going to prepare for this new life. So, there's
every time you message me about a venue is stressful for me.
Oh, same.
I can't keep them straight. We have yet to find a venue we like, so
we have not. Y'all pray for us that we can find a venue. Because I tell you what, this is a quick commercial break. Everybody every day is like, have you picked a date? Have you picked a date? Have you picked a date?
Y'all set a date yet?
So yeah,
and we love that people are so
they care about us. It's all in love.
But y'all, I promise we'll tell you when we know. I promise.
Well, I don't know. Some of the people that are asking are just not gonna know. But anyway, the point is, every new challenge, every change that comes up is a new adventure for you. So I want to encourage you to go to therapy. Go to counseling, talk this out with your counselor. And so a lot of the changes that come up in my life are scary and stressful and overwhelming. And I literally, like I said, that fight or flight or freeze, I freeze up because the inaction to me, it feels better than tackling it. But after I go to counseling, it kind of releases that pressure where it's like, oh, I can do that. Oh, it's not that scary. It's not that bad. And so you really need to, if you do have a therapist, I would recommend that you book you an appointment soon. If you don't, find one, because that will help you prepare for whatever this new challenge is. Also, I encourage you to journal. I have been journaling since I was 6. And I will say that through the years has probably helped me to be sane before I started going to counseling, because when something about writing things out, or even typing. Sometimes I will just type something in a Google Doc or put a note in my message, my notes app in my phone. Like that helps to just get it out of your head. Get it out of your head, and it's not that bad. It's not that scary. You're able to work through some of that anxiety and some of that stress. So I hope that helps you, Genevieve. And best wishes to you with those big changes. Please give us an update. We want to hear how you're doing after.
The way I always look at it is I never lose, ever. I'm either going to win or I'm going to learn. But I never lose. So take that with you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of the things I live by. So
our next question is from Daphne. And Daphne says, I've recently started dating for the first time in a long time. I'm on the apps, but have major anxiety before meeting people for the first time. Help. How can I combat this?
So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this one. Anxiety when you're meeting with new people can be rough. How that feels at this point in the dating game. I have not been, single in the last 6 3/4 of a year, but I can only imagine what that's like. So here's a little bit of advice that I do have. First of all, when you're meeting people, be yourself. If you're shy and awkward, be shy and awkward. Don't try not to, don't try to be someone you're not, because ultimately you want this person to get to know you. The real you. You don't want to have to put on the front the first date and then have to maintain that front, because that's gonna wear you out. You have anxiety about making sure you're doing X, Y, and Z correctly. You will mess around and lose yourself trying to impress somebody. The person who is meant for you will love every single one of your weird quirks.
So true.
Just like I mentioned earlier with Tara and how she has to rewatch episodes of Grey's and pause them if she falls asleep, because she can't just stop watching it and move on to the next episode, even though she's seen them all 400 times. Mm-mm. So Tara and I had quirks that we didn't bother to change when we first, started talking. There was no point. Like, look, this is me. So be yourself, be authentic, be genuine. And I guarantee you people will appreciate that more.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, Daphne, first of all, kudos to you for putting yourself out there, because that is tough. If you haven't dated for a long time, it can be easy to just kind of get in your own little zone and be like, I'm good. But at the end of the day, everybody wants companionship. Everybody wants, someone to kind of share their world with. And so I just want to say that's awesome that you're putting yourself out there and dating, especially on the apps. Like Ryan said, we're lucky. We've been together long enough where we were together before the apps were really a thing. When we started dating, everybody was still doing Match.com and what's the other one?
Meet.
Yeah, Black People Meet, eHarmony.
eHarmony, that's the one.
Christian Mingle.
Y'all
Farmers Only.
Man, I made a profile on Christian Mingle when I was in college, just kind of to see what it was like. And
So when we started dating, I was at that point where I was contemplating what I want to do online dating, but I didn't. And like I said, this was online dating. It was before the apps. So now I'm watching a lot of people, and I do know a few friends who have met their either spouse or longtime partner, longtime boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, on dating apps. So we're not against apps. We're not a part of that life cycle.
That was before our time. After our time.
So yeah, again, shout out to you for putting yourself out there. With having anxiety before meeting people for the first time, the way that I would recommend you combat that is to try to think of it as you're just hanging out. You know what I mean? Like whatever, if it's a date, try to level it down where your brain doesn't get kind of caught up, because sometimes we jump ahead, and I'm saying take a step back. So a lot of times if you're going on a first date, you're already thinking about, is this somebody I want to marry? Is this somebody I want to have kids with? You really just need to take a step back and just be like, I'm going to go kick it with this person and they seem pretty cool and we're going to hang out. So just I know that's hard to do, but like in your brain, whatever it is, level it back a few notches so that you can relax a little bit and so that you can keep it light, keep it airy. First dates, have that like, they have a ton of pressure on them. But if you just think of it as like, this is just another human being that I'm hanging out with. And if we connect, great. If not, oh well.
Keep it pushing.
Keep it moving, And so at the end of the day, and you didn't say how old you are.
Did it say if she is getting out of a relationship or if she's just starting to date for the first time in a while?
It says starting to date for the first time in a long time, which to me sounds like
she might have been getting out of a relationship.
No, sounds like I haven't been dating for a while. And I'm now trying to. That's how I read it. Okay. So I would say with that, just try to keep it light, keep it airy, and just enjoy the opportunity to hang out with another human being. Where we put pressure on ourselves is like calling it a date, which is cool to date. But again, like go grab ice cream, go to a movie or like whatever, like go. Axe throwing is a new popular trend here. Do something like super cool or random with that other person. Get to know them.
Don't go axe throwing. You're going to hurt yourself.
Don't go axe throwing and say we told you to. Date, at least. Don't hurt yourself. Anyway, the point is do something cool, do something fun, and like I don't know how to say don't have anxiety because I mean like
that's not
that you just that's a thing. But I think whatever your coping self-care methods are, whether it's a nice relaxing bubble bath or some yoga, do whatever, walking your dog, whatever it is that's relaxing to you, try to do that a couple hours before the date, and that will hopefully help calm your nerves. Also, if you write out like things you're grateful for, that helps you kind of realize like I'm a complete and whole person with or without this other person. So if it goes well or doesn't, I don't really care.
I like that. And again, with these apps, if you decide you don't want to see that person again, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times if you're nervous about something, you're going to be a bit quirky because you're overthinking it. Even if you're not overthinking it and you're just regular thinking it, there's going to be moments where you're like, oh man, I wish I hadn't said this, or I wish I haven't done X, Y, and Z. Here's one piece of advice that I do have. Like I mentioned before, I meet a lot of new people on a regular basis. And a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I forget to breathe. I often forget to breathe. And I find myself midway through a sentence and I'm completely out of breath after standing still for like 45 seconds. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, why can't I breathe? Why can't I breathe? And I'm just like mentally freaking out in front of them and they can't really tell what's going on. But I got to stop and... And I know it's going to be awkward if you do that in front of somebody, but that nice deep inhale, exhale will give you like a whole set of fresh, like, a whole set of new oxygen. And oxygen is important for brain function.
Yeah. And so
which enables you to think clearly again.
So maybe one of the things you do before that date is meditate if you're into that. Yeah. So, just some deep breathing exercises could help you relax a little bit and prepare.
The biggest symptom of my anxiety is I forget to breathe. So take that.
One into the two.
I see what you did there.
Breathe. Oh. Oh, gosh. Okay. So send us your questions to askttrl@gmail.com. That's it for this week, guys. But again, it's askttrl@gmail.com. And someone recently asked if they could DM us questions. Absolutely, you can.
You may DM us questions.
That's not a problem at all. We just have the email there if you want. But yeah.
If you know us, you can text us questions.
Yeah. If you know us, you can text us questions. I mean, I'm kind of a nerd, so I prefer email. But
she likes to have everything super organized.
Why, I do. But we'll take it however you want to send it, guys. All right. So let's wrap it up with our quick tip for the week. Just a little love life advice for those of you who are boot up or want to be boot up. Biddy-da-doo. So our quick tip for the week, of course, is go to counseling. Go to counseling together and individually. So a lot of people may not know that Ryan and I went to counseling before we even got engaged.
Like years ago.
Yeah, years ago. And so the thing is, I just want to say, first of all, I love that you're open to counseling and therapy. I love that you go on your own and that you're willing to go with me and that you aren't creeped out that I go by myself. Because at first I was like nervous to tell you I'm going to counseling because I didn't want you to be like, this shit crazy. So, you know,
here's the thing. I already thought you were crazy.
I mean, and you're right. So
yeah. So mostly because you love me. So
the thing is, like, go to counseling together and individually. So individually, of course, you're working on yourself. And like I said, making sure you're the best wife or mother, husband or father, or, you know, whatever partner that you can be. And then going together is important because it's nice to have that third party kind of not necessarily like to take sides, but to mediate some issues to help you talk it out. I think, and I'm going to speak for you on this.
Cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I
will.
I think when we went to couples counseling, you thought, because we went to my counselor because we had a hard time finding someone that our insurance would cover that was someone new. So we just ended up going to my person because it was before you had your therapist. So
right.
I think you thought that she was going to team up against you.
No, I didn't quite think that, but I was like, you know, preparing myself for that in case it happened.
And then she was like actually harping on me, and then you got mad. Like,
goodness, it was so. She was so Team Ryan. I was like,
I was loving it.
It's like I said one thing. I brought one thing up, and we spent the whole session going in on Tara. I was like,
yeah,
I had several other things I wanted to say, but
that's why I love her, because
she's like, well, she went in on
the
you.
more she loves you, it validates like, okay, I have a good person. I just need to work on communicating with that good person. And the more she goes in on me, I'm like, you actually right. I do need to work on that. Thank you. So, you know, I love it. Anyway,
it was cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So obviously premarital counseling is a must. I don't understand people who get engaged and get married and don't go to premarital counseling. That is a requirement for me. That has been a requirement for years of anyone I was going to marry. So I'm super excited for us to go to premarital counseling. But like I said, we also went to counseling before, and I will want to go to counseling after we get married.
Right.
I mean, people, like, think of it like an oil change or a tune-up. Like, you just need that regular maintenance, and you got to do the work. I read books about relationships. I really want to go to this Love Hour conference. It's a little expensive, but
let's discuss
we might be able to make it happen. Yeah. But like, I want to go to workshops. I want to talk to other married couples. Like, at the end of the day, like, I feel like to be successful in a marriage, you have to invest the time in it. You can't just like go through life and hope for it to work out. Like, I don't think you just wake up 60, 70 years married without actually putting in effort. And so that's kind of my advice. If you're dating someone and you have some red flags, or if you're engaged and you have some red flags, go to counseling, because the thing is, it would be better to find that out and get out of a situation when you're dating or engaged than to go through a marriage and have to go through a divorce.
Divorces are expensive. If there's children involved, it's very detrimental to it can be detrimental to their mental state. And this is not something you want to put a child through.
No.
Find out sooner. You know, there's no shame in walking away from a relationship because you don't foresee a successful marriage.
Absolutely.
So definitely, please, like, seriously, it's not a bad thing to go to couples counseling before you go to premarital counseling. So I highly recommend it, quite frankly.
Absolutely. And like we've talked about with like things like the love languages and Enneagram, like, it's just one of those things where you have to realize you're two completely separate individual people with different childhoods and upbringing and different personalities and characteristics and temperaments. I mean, you're different, and having to merge those is going to be like work. It's going to be challenging. Like, yeah, you may, like, when we first started talking or dating, I was like, oh, we're the same person. We have so much in common. Oh my gosh. Which we do have a lot in common.
This is true.
But we also are very different on a lot of things. And so, so that's something we had to learn and work through. And so, again, that's pretty much it. Like we've been saying this whole time, go to counseling, go to therapy, see a therapist, go to a counselor.
to your therapist.
Yeah.
And
Just do
honestly,
it.
and if you are not in a position to be able to pay for a counselor or a therapist, or you don't have the insurance to help you pay for it, you know, sometimes you can just talk to someone in your community that you trust. Someone who is in a position where you are wanting to be. Sometimes it's just a mentor. Sometimes you just have a really good sit down conversation with a mentor.
Yes, a mentor is a really great idea too. I mean, I'm definitely for the licensed professional counselor, therapist, all of that, but I do think it is important to have a mentor, but you know, somebody older and wiser who's like giving you real wise sage advice. Right.
And before we went to the couples counseling, and before I, you know, started going to a therapist, it was somebody I worked with. He was a professor. He's now at a different institution, which is good for him. Sucks for all of us. But we had a couple conversations. You know, him and his wife, I think they just celebrated 23 years of marriage. I just saw it on Facebook. But one day, him and I just sat down and was like, so he came to me and was just like, you know, let's talk. You know, I see y'all's relationship, blah, blah, such and such, you know, want to talk about anything? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I got so many questions. And we just had a nice little chat. You know, it wasn't nothing too major. You didn't have to go into too many details. He shared some stuff that he went through in his journey, because quite frankly, you know, he's someone who I look up to.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't really have the same career path that he had, but, you know, it's someone who's, you know, been where I am, and someone who's respectable in the community. So it's like I say all the time, listen to the OGs. Listen to the OGs.
Absolutely.
If you don't know what OGs is, pay attention to your elders. And so, like, listen to the OGs, because most of the if the OGs are really OGs, they're not going to steer you wrong. True. They're not going to try to steer you wrong. So just because they're older than you does not mean they're OG, but the OGs will not steer you wrong. I promise. So identify your OGs. If you don't know what OGs is, identify your elders so that you know who is looking out for your best interest, because the OG is not going to steer you wrong. So if you don't have access to a therapist or a counselor, a mentor, someone who you trust and someone who you've known for a long time is a good place to start. So, and yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for that part.
It wraps it up for all of that.
All of the parts.
So again, make sure you follow us at This Is TTRL on Twitter and Instagram. And we want to hear from you. Comment, like, DM, whatever, share.
Especially if you got questions about mental health, because the next week's show is going to be similar to this one. It's going to be a part 2 to this episode.
Yeah.
So please send us questions, DMs, tweets, texts, whatever. Again, we will change the name if you do not want your business out there. If you want to make up a rogue email address real quick, I probably have about 40 myself. So don't be afraid to do that. Emails are free.
Yes.
Yeah, just hit us up one way or another, and we will do the best we can to answer it. One day we need to have a guest on the show, someone in the mental health.
One day we will. One day we will. I think we want to. I'm not ready for a guest yet.
Not me either.
But yes, we will definitely, and maybe it'll be Kendra.
Maybe. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So, again, follow us. This is TTRL. And
Instagram and Twitter.
And then mine is TCAR_examiner.
Mine is TheRY_C.
And we will see y'all next week.
Peace.